I struggled to come to terms with this shoe. When I first ran it, those first couple runs, I went out and ran in it and I didn't get it. I went and watched other people's reviews of this shoe and I was like, am I running in the same shoe? Do I see the same thing? Because I'm certainly not feeling what they're feeling. But after about 40 to 50K into this shoe, something clicked and it made sense. I understood what this shoe is, at least for me. The problem is, right at about the 50K mark, I was Hoka'd. And I was Hoka'd hard. And what do I mean by being Hoka'd? Well, I've run off and on in Hoka shoes since about 2018. In fact, I stopped at the end of 2020 because I was being Hoka'd so hard by shoe after shoe after shoe from Hoka. And what do I mean by that? Ultimately, there's going to be some sort of durability problem. That could be foam, that could be outsole, that could be upper. There's going to be a quality control issue, meaning the shoe's just going to fall apart, or there's a fit issue. And in this case, with the Mach 6, I have had the fit issue of being Hoka'd, and I've been Hoka'd hard from this fit issue. Let's talk about what is good about this shoe, and there's actually legitimately a lot that's good about this shoe. Now, I've already done an initial impressions video on this shoe. I'll put a link in the description, a card on the screen. Go check that out if you're interested. But overall, what I really appreciate about this shoe is that it is such a simple shoe. It's kind of the anti-Hoka shoe right now because so much of what Hoka is putting out there is just crazy. All these layers of foam and these plates and just crazy geometries. This is a very understated, very simple shoe in many parts. A very basic upper, a one-piece supercritical EVA midsole, one piece of foam. There's no plates, there's no multi-layers of foam in here. It's just one piece of foam and it's very nice to run in. And a full or almost full rubber coverage outsole, something that isn't very common on Hoka shoes. And if you take all of those things together, you put them together in what's a very simple shoe that is a very good non-plated workout shoe, in my opinion. A lot of people have been saying this is a great daily trainer, maybe the best daily trainer that Hoka makes right now, but I disagree. The problem I run into with this as a daily trainer is that I've taken it out on easy runs, and ultimately I'm running at what I think is an easy pace. I look down at my watch and I'm running 30 to 45 seconds faster per kilometer than I really should be, and my HR is kind of out of range because this shoe's just too easy to run fast in. The other issue that limits this as far as a daily trainer for me is that I think the foam is a little bit of a crutch for this shoe. Now, most of the runs that I've done in this shoe are in the 12 to 14 kilometer range, which is about 7 to 8.5 miles, somewhere in there. The longest runs I've done in this shoe are probably 16 to about 18 kilometers. That's 10 miles, maybe 11.5 miles. I'm not doing a lot of heavy volume right now because I'm working on 5K speed. But what I will say about this shoe and about the foam is that after about 10, 12 kilometers, about 7.5 miles, the foam just feels a little flat. It's not packing out. It's not the classic sort of packed out Hoka foam that after like 6K, it just feels like you're running on the ground. It's not that. It just feels a little less peppy. The first couple kilometers you go out in this shoe, it feels great. It's really bouncy. It's really rolly. It's really fun. The last couple kilometers in this shoe, it's still rolly, it's still bouncy. It's just not as fun, as bouncy as it was initially. So if I took this shoe to 20, 25K, which I never would, I would totally expect this shoe not to be the best option for that type of running. And frankly, if I'm going above 25K, I'm probably going to go out in a plated shoe anyway, like a super shoe to do most of that running in. Or I'm going to pick something like the Asics Super Blast for that type of running. Not a shoe like this. This is a non-plated workout option. And the last compliment I'll give this shoe is that the outsole in this shoe has been surprisingly nice. Now, Hokas are known for a very specific type of feel, a very specific type of soft strike on the ground, generally because they've had very little rubber coverage on the outsole of the shoe, and you're running basically on the foam. That's been a Hoka feel thing. But with all of the rubber on this shoe, Hoka's managed to maintain that Hoka feel, that soft Hoka feel with this shoe in a really nice way. It works really well. I think they've done a great job with that. And that brings me to where I've been Hoka'd in this shoe, and it's the fit. Now, the fit of Hoka's has always been the biggest pain point for me, sometimes in a very literal sense. It's almost like every time Hoka designs or redesigns an existing shoe, they start completely from scratch in every single detail, including learning how to develop a last for the shoe. If you find a Hoka shoe that fits your foot really well and you enjoy running in, you better buy as many of that shoe as you can possibly buy, because you're never going to find another Hoka, whether that's another model or the next generation of whatever that shoe is, that fits and runs the same. Every single shoe fits and runs differently. Case in point with this, the Mach 6. The predecessor to this shoe, the Mach 5, has almost nothing to do with this shoe as far as the way it feels on foot, the technologies or foam in it, and the fit of the shoe overall. It's almost like if you didn't see they're both called a Mach, you would have no clue that they're actually the same shoe, and this is the new generation of that shoe. They have nothing to do with one another. So let's get into the problems with the fit of this shoe. Now, the first one is something I talked about in my initial impressions video because I was concerned about it then. And it's the feel right here at the base of the eyelet chain. The amount of volume in the upper right here is way too low. It's not a width thing, it's the amount of volume here. And because I know everyone's going to say it in the comments, there's a wide version of this shoe, maybe you just needed the wide version. Well, I did go to the Hoka store and I tried on the wide version of this, and it was still a very constricting fit right here. The rest of the volume in the forefoot was a little better. The other problem I'm running into in this shoe was still there, but even in the wide version, the volume is still too low here. It doesn't make sense why they designed this upper the way they did. Now, to be fair, I have a very high developed arch and I have a high volume foot, so I guess that's not a Hoka fit foot, but other Eurofit shoes, and I wouldn't really call this a Eurofit anymore, but the classic Eurofit being very narrow, something like a Solomon fit or normal fit or a classic Adidas fit, I never have any problems with that, either width or volume of the uppers. But this shoe, it's always been a problem. To be fair though to this, after about the first 30K or so in the shoe, it did stretch out a little bit, and on the run, it wasn't so much of a problem, but I was always aware of a lot of pressure right here in my foot. Now, when I went to the Hoka store to try on the wide version of this, I also tried on the Cielo X1 again, in the same size, US men's size 9, and the Cielo X1 fits the way I almost wish this shoe fit, because the Cielo X1's upper is much more roomy. There's much more room in that shoe, especially right here at the base of the eyelet chain, which doesn't really make sense given how tall that shoe is and given just all the crazy geometry in that shoe. It's almost like if they took the Cielo X1 upper, they put it on this shoe, keep these laces, because the Cielo X1 laces are just awful, it would make more sense, because this more race fit upper would make sense on the Cielo X1, but it doesn't really make sense on this shoe, at least from a practicality standpoint. Now, the other problem with this shoe, and this is the real sort of classic Hoka problem that I've always run into. Hoka's midsoles always have something they call the active foot frame. And what that is a bunch of sidewalls around the top of the midsole that are there to really stabilize and help guide the foot. Now, it's not a unique technology to Hoka. Pretty much every other running shoe brand has some form of that in their shoes, but none of them have ever bothered me except for what Hoka does here. And in this shoe, the sidewalls really are ultimately the death blow for this shoe with me, and they're the ones that are causing me the most problems. And it starts right here on the lateral side. There's a sidewall right here that when I'm landing, and again, I say this in every video, but I'm a forefoot striker who supinates. When I'm landing and the heel's touching the ground, what this sidewall is doing is pushing my foot inward. And that's making this shoe sort of pitch inward. It's almost like forcing me to pronate a little bit. It's not, but it feels like that. And what that's causing is it's pushing my foot into this sidewall. And this sidewall is ultimately the problem, especially right here. It's pushing my foot inward and it's making a pressure point right here. And what that feels like is the very early stage of plantar fasciitis. It's that pressure right in that point in your foot of plantar fasciitis. And that is a complete no-go for me. I am not going anywhere near that. A shoe that gives me that feeling, nope, I'm never running in that shoe again, even if I liked it. And I did kind of like this shoe. Now, I don't think this shoe is actually giving me plantar fasciitis, but it's the sidewalls on this shoe, especially in the heel on both sides, they're forcing my foot to move in a way that my foot doesn't want to move in, and no other shoe really forces my foot to move that way. Because as soon as I go run in a different shoe, and I've run in a lot of other shoes, I never get that pressure in that sort of plantar fasciitis point in my foot, ever. So it's something very specific with the sidewalls and moving my foot in the shoe, or not letting my foot move the way it naturally wants to. And I've felt that before in other Hoka shoes, and that's one of the biggest things of being Hoka'd that I would consider. And lastly, the other sidewall problem is right here. Now, there is a very low sidewall right here, and this is on the medial side, right where the big toe sits. The sidewall is here, but I don't think the sidewall comes up much above the insole. So it's not like it's coming up and pushing into the toe. But what Hoka's sidewalls tend to do is, if the upper already has very low volume, their sidewalls pinch the upper inward and take even more volume out of the upper. And it's definitely doing that here. But even worse, what it's really doing is it's creating a pinch point right here. And I think what's happening is my big toe is getting pinched between the sidewall, the insole, and the upper. And what that's resulting in, and I'll spare you showing you my big toe because you don't want to see that. But right here on the edge of my big toe, like right here, right where the big toe starts to wrap under, it creates a blood blister that's literally a straight line. So that tells me that my toe is getting pressed in the insole to the sidewall, or some straight line in there that is causing that blood blister. Again, I'm not going to run with a shoe that's causing that problem. Now again, I'm sure people in the comments are going to say, well, there's a wide version of this. Yes, as I said, I tried on the wide version of this to see if I was crazy or not. And even though the wide version of the shoe does have more volume here, I still felt whatever is in here, in this sidewall, poking into my toe. And I know if I ran in the wide version of the shoe, I would still get that same problem. And I guarantee I'd still get the same sort of, rails or sidewalls here, not allowing my foot to flex naturally. It's just really unfortunate that Hoka's just do this to my foot. So there we are, 95K in this shoe, which is about 60 miles, and it's going in the donation box because I'm never going to put this shoe on my foot again, and I'm not going to run it anymore. I'm not going to put up with those problems. I enjoy this shoe, and I think it's a great non-plated workout shoe option, but I'm not going to spend the time to figure out how to rectify or resolve a lot of these problems. There's other shoes that I've had problems with where I will spend the time to figure it out, but this shoe is just not worth it for me. Additionally, there's a few other non-plated workout shoes that are coming out in June and July that even if I figured this shoe out, I'm probably not going to run in this shoe for a non-plated workout shoe because there's going to be some much, much better options coming. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you find this content useful, consider subscribing. You'll see more content from me pop up in your feed. If not, drop a like on this video because it helps this channel continue to grow, which I always appreciate. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one.